Hello, this is Max, sending from Berlin. I'm an author, curator, a poet. I'm sending this on the invitation of Thomas Mann House in California. Thank you very much. I was reading now this essay, Germany and the Germans, from May 29th, 1945 by Thomas Mann. Must admit, I had heard about it. I hadn't read it yet, so thank you for the opportunity. And as I usually do my work in German, I decided to write stuff down. You find 2 pages here. Please excuse me for all the mispronunciations or mistakes I may make. I hope you still be able to take something away from it as I did, because it's a very interesting essay. So reading Thomas Mann's essay, Germany and the Germans, means to me to observe a renowned and many times erroneous German author on his own long walk to democracy. In 1918, his judgment had been decidedly different. With Betrachtung eines Unpolitischen, he had published an openly reactionary, nationalistic and anti-democratic book. With that, he played a significant role within the intellectual elite in Germany that made it harder for the still very young Weimar Republic to establish itself as the first democracy in Germany, and that was after the First World War. So now with the Second World War, we see Thomas Mann's position significantly changing. But reading Mann's essay, Germany and the German today's, does not only have historical value for me, it also means to enter a dialogue with this writer and his thoughts, and to see if there's anything that talks to me and the present situation I find myself in. And I must say that I was surprised to find much that I could relate to. So now, it would probably take too long to give you an idea of how many things I would relate to. But what he does is he outlines an idea of what the sources are that this irrationalism of German politics comes from, and how this is related to art. And that, I think, is most striking about his essay, that he's making those connections of the political or apolitical sphere, a political sphere that is being treated with disdain by the German public and the German elite, because politics are always dirty, and it withdraws into an idealistic, romantic concept of what art is and what reality should look like. And this kind of culminates into this Bismarckian, Machiavellian idea of an idealistic great German nation, but a very rough and nasty kind of politics. Because if politics are the sphere of the nasty, so then let's be nasty. That's basically what Thomas Mann tries to say about German politics and the German understanding of politics. Kind of just saying, if we can't have the full ideal, we don't want to have any of it. So you find that, and then he reaches the whole idea of romanticism. And I think this is where Mann's political analysis, when he's talking about romanticism, is being connected to his perspective on art. The Nobel Prize winner underlines that the widely shared idea of a culture devoid of politics feeds the same sentiments than the German inability to be cosmopolitan without trying to convert or conquer the whole world. So let's assume that Mann is right with his story of German inwardness, this is what he calls it, a story of German inwardness, and his observations that wicked Germany is only good Germany gone astray. If this is true, one must also highlight that Mann is talking about a very specific idea of the good and bad Germany, conveying an however implicit concept of who belongs to it, to the good and the bad Germany, and who doesn't. With all the best intentions of a better late than never democratized Thomas Mann, he is caught in his own Faustian dialectics of good and bad that is all within himself. Honest as this self-centered reassessment, Mann calls it self-critique, may be, he is sidelining the continuous presence of a different Germany that has been around since the beginning of time. I'm speaking, of course, about Jewish, female, queer, Sinti and Roma Germany that was marginalized and persecuted all through the times. Thomas Mann seems to be struck by an almost epistemic blindness, as he does not recognize the presence of a different archive, even once, that could have supplied Germany 1945 with a counter-narrative, And this different archive remains widely untapped today. And one should probably say this number of different archives. I would like to argue that this Germany of the others, as I may call it, treated art differently than the way Thomas Mann describes it. Not in a romantic, counter-revolutionary way that led all the way up to the political irrationalism and despair Fritz Stern talks about in his famous study, that carried National Socialism. Instead, these populations and its artists understood art as a means to survive, to defend against the claim for assimilation, to stay different. This has manifested in a series of counter-narratives and counter-strategies reaching from Jewish prayers against the non-believers to the development of the Jewish gypsy proletarian language Rottwelsch, from secret feminist knowledge production to queer aesthetics. I call this alternative concept militant art, in the sense of a militant democracy developed by Karl Mannheim and Karl Löwenstein in the 1930s and 1940s in exile. Because it is the base to defend against the non-democratic and anti-humanistic tendencies within German history that Thomas Mann is focusing on in his essay. There exist a whole lot of different archives, but one may only find a key to them if one understands that the Germans Mann talks about were but a part of a society they were living in, and the same is true for the societies we are living in today. So what I would like to think about ultimately is the scope of the Mann essay, to understand something like the right wing and the continuities and genealogy it stands in, and how we see a return of a specific idea of political thought in Germany today, and how this whole continuity of a romantic understanding of the world may prevent a German present to assess or to understand how the return of the right wing is questioning the idea of German improvement, of the good Germany, which is one of the central core concepts after 45 on which Germany has been built. So in a way to bring back what Mann calls the socio-political element into a conception of culture. But at the same time to understand that this isn't the only history, and that Thomas Mann himself is just telling a very specific, dominant, hegemonic German history that is good and bad, but remains within the scope of a German set of coordinates and a German epistemic frame, if you want so. And what I'd propose is to widen our own perspectives on difference and on something I call the Germany of the others, which has been a part of Germany all the time, but hasn't become a part of a reflection on what Germany is and could have been. And I think that may be an interesting take in 1945, just as today, in order to reassess the limits and possibilities of the historical archive and of the question who we have become. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope this triggers something in your brain. Maybe it helps you keep on thinking, keep on discussing. If it opens up any question, I'm very happy. And with that, all the best from Berlin. This was Max Czollek. Have a great day.